Hello, and welcome to Connected with Latham, where we discuss ideas, legal developments, and business trends shaping the global economy. I'm Haim Zaltzman, partner and global vice chair of Latham's Emerging Companies and Growth practice. In this episode, I'm joined by Patrick Brockett, Chief Executive Officer, and Alberto Vivani, Chief Operating Officer of Celera Semiconductor, a next-generation analog semiconductor company that specializes in AI-accelerated silicon development. By leveraging fully automated AI-powered development flows crafted by highly experienced analog IC experts, Celera delivers custom analog ICs and mixed-signal solutions 10 times faster than legacy IC vendors, catering to every application, big or small. With that, Patrick, welcome. Alberto, welcome.
It's great to be here, Haim. Thanks.
Nice to have us here. Thank you.
So before we jump in, Patrick, just up the top, I just gave an introduction to what Celera is, but for the layman out there, can you give us the elevator speech of what Celera does?
Yes, well, the semiconductor business, as probably everybody's aware, is going to cross $1 trillion this year, 4 years ahead of the forecasts, and it's forecast to be $2.4 trillion within the next 7 or 8 years. So we're seeing this tremendous boom in the industry driven by AI and digital technology. But there's a nasty secret that a lot of people don't know much about, and that is as we interface more with AI and digital technologies, networking, etc., we are human beings. So if you want to hear something, speak something, see something, touch something, move something, power something, you need analog. And that's our area of specialty. And the dirty secret is that there are very limited resources that can do analog design.
Interesting. I mean, first of all, the 1 trillion number so quickly always shocks me. And it's always good to be reminded that we are humans. I always have, my wife tries to remind me that every day when I'm an annoying robot about something, but that's a different story. Actually, it's a great segue that before we get into Celera, the semiconductor industry, and more the business model, I would love for the audience to really get to know you two and your background. So, Alberto, I'll start with you. Why are you so passionate about semiconductor innovation and what Celera is doing, particularly on the analog front?
Yes, I'm very well placed for being passionate because I actually come from the design community. I started as an analog designer, and so I was very well positioned to understand all the difficulties and how slow it is and how manual it is. 15 years ago, I transitioned and went to the dark side of the force, passed to the business community.
Just for the audience, when he said dark side, he looked at me. I want you to know that's what happens when you're the only lawyer in the room. It's very serious. Go ahead, Alberto.
So please. And so even more, I realized how much what was preventing us from delivering solution to the customer was not the fact that the business was not good, but was our inability to do everything that the customer wanted all the time for a combination of cost of development reason, but particularly because we didn't have enough resources to get it done. And so it was abundantly clear to me that this industry was ripe for this disruption. And when I got the opportunity to jump on Celera's bandwagon, I did it immediately because Celera is doing exactly what's needed to go in the direction of automated analog design using AI. And that's what's going to be the future. The question is not if this is possible. The question is simply when it's going to happen and who's going to do it. And it's happening now as we're doing it.
I mean, Patrick, why is it happening now? Why is the Celera and the opportunity you guys are seizing happening now versus 3 years ago versus 5 years ago? What's happened to the world? Is it just LLMs? Is it just the NVIDIA chips? Is that what's really pushed this frontier?
About 7 or 8 years ago, our founder, Callum McRae, who is, a very experienced analog design expert, figured out, as we alluded to earlier, that there's a lot of need of automation of design in the analog area. Digital was automated pretty much 20 years ago. There's been zero progress in analog productivity really for a couple of decades. And Callum set out to basically automate analog design. And as it turned out, the way he did it was take a bunch of analog functions, write algorithms to turn them into digital twins. This was before and ahead of AI. AI comes along, and there's the intersection, which we're leveraging now. So we are in a position where we can now do 10 times the number of work or products out that was possible 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
And why is that? What's been the change that's allowed you to because 10 times is a monstrous number in terms of efficiency.
Yes. So what we're doing, believe it or not, everybody still works at the very fundamental level, at the transistor level, and sizing physical components in analog. Nobody does this in digital. In digital, everything has been abstracted to a higher level, and that's how you see time. You just automatically synthesize the physical level, and you work at a more abstracted level.
NVIDIA doesn't work at a transistor level. They don't put down 2 billion transistors.
So they write some code that then has the instruction to generate all the transistors you need. And we did the equivalent for analog. The difference is that the number of primitives you need in digital are a handful, and a number of primitives you need in analog are more than 100. We're already at 150.
Can you go into that a little bit more detail, explaining why you need the exact number of primitives? Like what's the...
Right. So in logic design, in digital design, the primitives are basically what we call logic gates. So those are logic functions or such functions. And again, a handful, and you can basically build a computer architecture based on these 5 functions. In analog, you need a lot more functions. You need the fundamental units, an amplifier, but you need comparator, you need oscillators, and each of these functions have dozens of parameters with analog values. You can have a hysteresis of 300 millivolts, 301, 302, any value you want. And so that's what's prevented people from abstracting analog, because they're just so complex. And so we are the first company that actually succeeded putting some order in that, structuring the problem in the right way, which is, as Pat said, designing digital twins. And of course, we intercepted the moment where the technology underlying, which is the computing power, gets right at the level that we needed to get mainstream.
As with most things in Silicon Valley, there are accidental empires. So Callum set out to build an expert system based on...
And just again for the audience,
Callum is the technology mind behind all of this. And he basically built an expert machine to do analog design. Then, he basically did a whole bunch of digital twins. Turns out that that's perfect for leveraging AI. So when this started out, did we have a vision of using AI? AI didn't really exist then. So to be perfectly, we got lucky.
As we say in the Valley, don't let reality get in the
Yeah,
way of it.
but still, it's actually the greatest saying. And for the audience, what Alberto just said, I'll repeat it. It's one of the funniest things I hear it, and I used to dismiss it when I was a younger and a kid. But Alberto, again, like, don't let reality get in the way is one of the maxims that you constantly hear in Silicon Valley, and it's obviously the driver of creativity. It also makes you want to read a lot of sci-fi, which I'm a big fan of. But more really, and speaking of sci-fi and digital twins. This is a question I ask on every episode, so I definitely don't want to forget it before we get into more detail. And I will have you both answer and try not to escape it. Who is the biggest nerd at Celera?
Oh, Jason Wortham. And most people actually have Jason Wortham in their pocket because he is the nerd behind being able to track how much power you've got in your cell phone. He was the guy that developed the algorithms and architected the chips that most everybody has in their pocket right now.
Say, and you, Albert, who's the biggest nerd?
I think I don't want to avoid it, but it's a very tough competition. And I've been in many
We got a lot of nerds.
Pick one. I didn't say this is going to be easy.
You're gonna see like it's whenever there is a technical problem, I see many eyes lighting up, everybody getting in the room, and it's that's why it's successful, because everybody collaborates to solve problems, and because we're all nerds. We're all nerds. I'm an engineer too, so
I'm not a nerd. I'm an economist.
Well, all right. I'll let you come. I'm going to say your answer is Patrick. So, so obviously with owner, and we talked about the digital twins and the analogs. It is obviously analog is much more physically intensive in terms of by definition, and obviously the physical intensity requires capital and resources. And you recently did a Series A with Maverick Silicon, and obviously capital is needed. How do you think, Patrick, about strategic financing for your plans for development? Is it more essential than it is for other semiconductor companies? How do you broadly think of your financing plans?
I mean, we've raised $20 million, and that will get us a long way down to, is getting us a long way down to ramping into volume and revenue. The good news for us is our capital requirements. I mean, we're basically a design house.
Yep.
So all of the capital requirements are pretty modest compared to the digital world. I mean, we can do a product development. The out-of-pocket costs for all of the hardware is
$200K.
$200,000.
And was that always a strategy to be a design house and then move the actual need for physical and otherwise? Because that's obviously something that's very important in the industry, in semiconductor industry generally. It's important in all industries, but it's particularly important in semiconductor industry to be the design front and then have the manufacturing or other components that require more physical investment elsewhere. Was that always Celera's strategy?
Yes. So basically, it's to find the opportunities, understand the application, do the design, outsource the manufacturing. And that's pretty much the model that the entire industry has followed for the last.
Fabless semiconductor.
We're a fabless semiconductor company.
Of course. And then in terms of the actual fab, do you have a strategy for that now? Or does that come later when the design is more filled out?
So we're working with the largest analog independent fab in the world. They have 5 locations right now. They're adding a 6th. Of course, they're all in Asia. 5 of them are in Taiwan.
Well, we're trying to change the of course part of that in the United States, as you know in our daily news. But yes, obviously the audience, all the major fabs globally, or most of them, are located outside the United States. Obviously, there's a huge strategic push by the Trump administration, as there has been in prior administrations, to change that. But the reality on the ground still is that particularly Southeast Asia with Taiwan, Korea, and Japan are very dominant in the fabless.
Yes, but our partner is also developing a second fab in Singapore as well. So we're going to have diversified factories in at least 2 different countries.
And have you already, I'm assuming again for the audience, you've always had the strategy, you've coordinated with the fab way earlier in what you're doing, even as you're bringing the design through.
As you can see, I've got a lot of gray hair. I've been doing business with these guys for over 20 years.
Well, yeah, the audience will just see the pictures because there's no video, but both Patrick and Alberto, other than having much better accents than I do, are also younger than I am in a spiritual way. Alberto, this is actually a great segue. We talked about physical, the go-to-market strategy. Obviously, with every business, Celera has to keep an eye on the customers, not just doing the design and manufacturing, all the nerdy stuff that we focus on, right? The actual mechanical stuff. What's your view on what's the go-to-market strategy for Celera broadly, and give us like a 1-year versus a 5-year perspective?
Yes, that was pretty much my job entering Celera, finding the right market for our technology and driving the technology in the right direction. And I have to say that The right market is really what's called custom analog products, which are the driver of all the growth in analog. To give you an example, if you go back 20 years ago, custom analog was about 25% of the analog market. Right now, it's projected to go, it's already 60%, projected to go to 75% in the next 5 years, which means that all the growth is in custom. Custom means delivering products to the customer that correspond to their application. So 5 customers are going to get 5 different products. Not the same.
And for the audience, a customer, we're not talking about retail.
Correct. Yeah, so the customers we're talking about are hyperscale data center companies, and you all know the names.
Yeah, the large. No, and by the way, it's fine. These are the hyperscalers. These are the Metas, the Amazons, the Microsofts, the Google, the Google, the Alphabet. So those are the main players.
Right. Then you have the consumer guys. Again, people like Apple, Meta, and you keep going, Google, Samsung, and so on. And then you have also a lot of other applications. For example, storage is growing very rapidly. You see all the stock fire. Optical is growing very rapidly.
Yeah, it's been amazing running over.
I cannot think of an area where our technology doesn't bring an advantage. And to tell you the truth, neither our customers can think of an area, because to every single customer we have gone to, we tell them, we can solve your problem. That is, you cannot get what you want. And everybody tell us, let's talk. And so I didn't get a single person telling us, no, we don't have a problem.
I mean, that is, by the way, that's very unique. I wish I had those problems where everybody would take my call as a lawyer trying to sell services. It's not supposed to be. Why is the door so open to the initial outreach? Is it because of the 10x efficiency, or what?
No, it's that to get the form factors and the performance that customers need, they need custom silicon. With the big guys out there that are basically building block based, they really can't do what we can do. Our technology enables us to be very flexible in terms of doing exactly what the customer wants, not only in the electrical performance, but also the format, the physical format. So, we're working with customers that are working with personalized electronics where they need very special physical dimensions. I've got to be careful that I don't.
Yeah. With our NDAs, as your lawyer, I don't go into too much detail on the design itself. But it sounds like the actual application for each individual customer is really, and your ability to meet that is really
that's the secret sauce. And what we found is everybody wants it, whether they're doing a data center product or personal electronics.
And there is another side to this, which is that over the last 5 years, there has been a big wave of mergers and acquisitions. So all of the remaining analog companies in the Western world are getting bigger and bigger and fewer. So customers are getting less choice and less availability, frankly. And they're looking for alternatives. And they look for an alternative that is a next generation company, and they're even large companies. I'm very eager to talk to them.
So, Alberto, you just said that the market's being very receptive on the customer side, and that's amazing to hear. And obviously, we wish that the case for now and forever. What's the most challenging aspect for you, Alberto? What's the hardest thing in terms of the go-to-market strategy that Celera is facing right now?
I think that the biggest challenge is harmonious growth, right? We have a tremendous amount of opportunities. So we are growing, expanding the company very rapidly. We recently expanded our engineering resources pretty drastically. But there is only so fast we can.
The laws of physics and the laws of physics.
And it's a great problem to have, but it's a problem, and that we need to manage, because we need to, find the fastest we can grow while maintaining the right level of quality for our customers, and that's the limit.
Yeah, I mean that is also key for the audience. growth with quality control, and particularly in the semiconductor or other deep technology industries, and the work we do as lawyers, but also just generally in the market, that is the hardest thing to balance. You can't, folks are like, oh, why don't we just produce more? Why don't you just do XYZ? And it's not. It's hard to do that in a quality controlled ways. It's hard to add a fab line. It's hard to redo things, and it's very important to keep that in mind. This isn't a switch you just turn on just because someone wants it on the other end.
Right. We have a tremendous growth. Could we grow twice as fast? Probably. Or that then something's gonna give.
Well, so speaking of giving, now we would talk about the micro, Patrick. Macro. What is keeping you up at night on the macro front in terms of, obviously this is a crazy world and we don't have to get into, global wars and geography changes and hotspots, but just generally on the AI world, what is the macro trends that you're tracking that are keeping you up at night?
Getting enough qualified people on to use our platform. We're in the process of literally over doubling the size of our engineering group. That's still not going to be enough.
And is that a problem because there aren't enough, or is it a problem finding them, or is it a problem because the cost? Or is it all the above, which is obviously
it's all of the above.
And there's no solution. You just have to hammer through it and do your best, or is there something that could make that on a macro level easy?
I need to be careful. I don't want to give our competition. We have found some pockets of talent and universities that can give us a supply line and of good people. So we're tapping into that.
Interesting. The reason for the audience, I'm smiling right now on the podcast is because notwithstanding the world we're in and everybody with AI thinking that it's going to take out all the jobs and do a thing, that is not what we're actually seeing on the ground. We know there's layoffs here and there, but the actual consistent theme that we're hearing from our clients, particularly in deep tech and in the semiconductor industry, is that it's very, 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 and I said very 3 times, not because I'm stuttering, but for emphasis, hard to find really qualified people put in chain. Like the value of great employees, great team members, in my legal career, I've never seen more demand for labor, quality employees, quality partners, quality vendors all across the line. Would you say that's in your career?
I've been in this industry a long time, and I've never seen the demand for good people anywhere close to what we're seeing now. So anybody out there that's got any experience in designing analog or power management technologies, please give us a call. We're at celerasemi.com.
So I will tell you, I've done a few of these podcasts, and that's the first time I've had someone listen and play. That's a great one.
We are hiring.
Everybody hear that? They're hiring. A lot of folks are hiring. With Celera is definitely hiring quality. So moving from the employee front to the capital front, and Alberto, on your end, how do you see your allocation of capital resources in the near term? Like, what's the focus for what you want? The ideal is I do XYZ. Patrick's raising his hands as well. I'm gonna let Alberto answer it, and then we'll have Patrick. And I actually want to see whether it's 2 different things.
Yeah. So as we grow, we started making sure that we have resources in both directions. So we split we have a design group and a platform group because we need to grow in our ability and capability to design products for customers. So we need design team. At the same time, we need to keep growing the platform both to support the design team and to evolve it and add more and more generative AI in there. And the third leg is, we're ramping up manufacturing. So we have a cost like for fabrication of prototypes, but also for fabrication of actual goods that the customer eventually will pay for. And so I would say that the biggest cost increase has been on the design side, but I would say that probably 80% of the cost is now going directly to the 2 platform and design team, and the rest is dedicated to hardware cost for us to get going with customers.
Patrick, any different?
What keeps me up at night constantly that's limiting our growth is qualified people.
So if you had done the capital, you would spend it on.
I would go out and buy as many analog companies as we could afford.
For
AI.
by AI, you mean compute, or what do you mean?
Oh, so we have analog engineers to design the product, but we need more and more AI engineers because
Got it.
we have the data.
Yep.
We have the synthetic data for analog, and we need to use it more and more for machine learning to train AI agents to drive analog.
Yeah, it's actually a very important, and in fact, I'll have you go in more detail on that. What Alberto just said, the AI world, in computing, the AI, the data is what really makes the difference. And the Celera's advantage is the data for the synthetic analog design and work. And if you can take that data with the right AI components, engineers, prompts, whatever you want to do, the AI design, it could just super launch it into an ability to create the product. Is that am I paraphrasing as the lawyer semi-correctly here?
You're absolutely correct.
All right, good. I hope my wife is listening right now, because she doesn't hear. I don't get that from her almost ever, so I appreciate that. So look, it's really, we're going to move to my favorite part of the episode. It's what I call the speed poker round. It's actually not too speedy, but it'll go by fast. I'm going to ask you each one question, and I want a direct answer. So I'm going to I'm going to go from one to the other. It's got to be a single answer. You can then explain what you mean, but no hedging is what we want. The audience wants to hear Chris yes, no type answer. So I'll start with you, Alberto. What's the biggest professional obstacle you faced?
I would say that really biggest professional obstacle I faced is inability to deliver to the customer what they want. And so that's why I'm here. That's why we're all here, is because we finally have the chance to make a dent in a problem that is really there. And I tell you, this is the first time I saw many devices. I went to promote devices to many companies. I never got in a situation where I actually was able to solve a real problem. And that everyone's read.
I mean, that's actually an amazing answer, and one that I've not had before. Is usually people give concrete things thrown away rather than a theoretical. I wasn't able to do it, and the full ownership of that is pretty amazing. So,
and that's why all the people we hire are here, because they went with their companies through the same problem.
Interesting. Patrick, greatest professional obstacle? Only one.
I'm not an engineer. So I got into this business when there was just starting to introduce silicon integrated circuits. So, the first orders I took were for transistors and diodes. Anybody can understand those. I don't think, to be perfectly frank, I would get hired by this company if I was coming out of college today. But I've been around long enough, and I've hired and worked with some brilliant engineers. So frankly, I've managed to get away with it.
Interesting. So for me, the clear learning, the message from that is have your kids become engineers. That's the key. But it is actually very important. And, as the world gets more streamlined, I have kids who will enter college in a little bit, and they always would talk about what they want to do. And one of my personal things, I always tell them, like, look, if you want to do something that's in the liberal arts, that's great, but couple it with something that is in the science fields or the practical or the engineering, etc. It'll only make your liberal art degree better. Your liberal art degrees, the history, the arts, the music, whatever, will make your scientific engineering side better. Do that so you have it. And that kind of dovetails is that, you kind of wish you had it and you got away with it early on. And now
now I wouldn't get away with it.
So now you wish you had that engineering if you were coming out.
Yes. But you mentioned the arts there. One of the things that we learned very early on was the best engineers are also musicians. So when we were out recruiting at college, if we found a kid that looked as though they had the right stuff as far as their engineering chops were concerned, we were interested. If they also played a musical instrument, we were very interested.
Interesting. That's interesting. It reminds me, as a side note, what the number one, and there's lots of factors in there, but the number one key trait of billionaires is in the world, which brings to that it's not family background, it's not race, it's not geographical where the number one is a liking for science fiction. The number one, the only one that had a correlation across all of them is that they're like inside that ability to think in a different realm, to have that artistic element was the key for the globe's billionaires overall. So
Creativity is critical.
interesting. So speaking of teammates and creativity, you get to pick one factor that you said, what's your ideal teammate? Is it education,
No,
experience, or temperament? One of those, Patrick.
temperament, energy. I look for people that have high energy, as I say, a big blue flame coming out of their rear end.
That's why we work really well together. Is because I have lots of shortcomings, but energy is generally what I can bring to it.
Yeah. So in my experience, you can train somebody that's smart and is intellectually curious to do anything. What you can't train somebody to do is to have energy. That you either have energy or you don't.
Alberto.
I have to simplify. Experience you acquire, knowledge you train, but temperament, character you develop.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, so for whatever it's worth, as I do more of these podcasts, that is the one that's more fair. No one picks education, which is really, for a guy who's spent so much damn money on it, it's like, oh, it's up, but it makes a lot of sense. All right. The next question is probably my favorite. This is what I call the poker table question. So I'm really a fan of poker. I'm pretty decent, although I played this week and I didn't do as well. And I love it because it's a stochastic game. Just because you have the best hand in a single match, just because you have the best strategy, things change. The table around you makes a difference. Who plays what and what play, when you tap, what happens, etc. It's all, so I find that unlike chess, which is very deterministic based on your moves, I find poker to be a much better reflection of life broadly because it's still stochastic. So the poker table question is the following. You're sitting at Celera today and you get to adjust one thing only. Is it the game itself? So the broader economy? Is it the table, the semiconductor industry broadly? Is it the house, the regulatory regime, government fiat, regulations and the licensing, etc.? Is it the stack of chips, how much money you have, how much cash you have on hand? Or is it the other players? Is someone not playing nice? Is someone getting in the way? Is there a lack of coordination across players in the industry for good, bad, or other reasons? So Alberto, I'll start with you.
I will not change a single thing because all the cards are in my favor. So I don't see why
That's amazing. That's the best answer I've had so far. It's Patrick.
I agree with Alberto. Right now, we're playing a great hand, and I think we're pretty savvy playing that hand. So I wouldn't change anything either. I would like to somehow get a hold of more people, but that's about it.
Interesting. Well, that's definitely refreshing. Usually someone tries to complain about one thing or another. So that's great to hear. It's a great reflection of where Celera is sitting now in the industry. But I think it's also in this moment in Silicon Valley and the semiconductor industry broadly, as we talked before this podcast, it is just unbelievably hot stuff right now. Every major stock index, the Philadelphia Semiconductor Exchange, hit record highs today, broadly across all elements of the supply cycle and the different companies in the semiconductor broadly, and everything that's adjacent is roaring right now. And I think where everybody's expecting it to be doing so going forward.
So in Silicon Valley for the last 30 years, it's all been about software. Now it's back to what's enabled Silicon Valley in the first place was chips. We're back to that. We've got the best hand anybody could deal us. Shame on us if we don't play it perfectly, and we will.
For audience, we'll repeat that again. I may have to play that for my kids tonight, but 100% agree. We've never had it better. We need to maximize the moment, and it's on us, full ownership, to do so.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. So speaking of full ownership, everybody, even in Silicon Valley, likes to eat. So this is my last question is what's your favorite food to eat generally at work, family, and then as a spicy, when you're playing poker and you're getting intense, what's your favorite? If it's different. For most people, it's not different. Alberto, favorite food. Both of these guys have much more interesting backgrounds, as you can tell from the accents. So I'm expecting something exotic here. I may not get it, but Alberto.
Well, I'm Italian, as you can hear from my accent, so I'm gonna go with favorite food being something Italian, which is probably a nice dish of pasta with pesto sauce. Pesto is my region.
See, my issue with pesto and pasta, I get it all over myself, so like it's hard to eat a thing. But that's just because I'm a.
But if I go more on what's exotic for me, I'm a big fan of Japanese food, so I'm gonna get some very good sushi.
Sushi is
It's bad signs of the expensive part.
very cool, very cool.
Being an Englishman, of course, I love curry.
Curry.
So I love Indian food.
It's a great area for Indian food. Just for the audience, we're sitting in Santa Clara right now, recording this, and Santa Clara broadly with Fremont and San Jose, as well as going up in the valley, Saratoga, and otherwise, it has some of the best Indian food restaurants, and I think in the world, but definitely in the United States.
Yes. But I don't eat curry playing poker. But I'm half Irish, so I love spuds. I love potato chips at the poker table.
Love it. And that's a good combo. You can actually use potato chips to dip into the Indian food. So it's not thing. So, Patrick, Alberto, I really want to thank you for joining me here today. It's been really not only entertaining, but super insightful for me personally, and hopefully for our broader Latham and Watkins audience. So thank you.
Thank you. We enjoyed it.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you for checking out this episode of Connected with Latham. You can subscribe and listen to new and archived episodes of Latham's podcast on lw.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. If you have questions or would like additional information, please email us using the links located in the show description. We hope you'll join us again next time. Thank you.
This podcast is provided as a service of Latham & Watkins LLP. Listening to this podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship between you and Latham & Watkins LLP, and you should not send confidential information to Latham & Watkins LLP. While we make every effort to assure that the content of this podcast is accurate, comprehensive, and current, we do not warrant or guarantee any of those things. And you may not rely on this podcast as a substitute for legal research and/or consulting a qualified attorney. Listening to this podcast is not a substitute for engaging a lawyer to advise you on your individual needs. Should you require legal advice on the issues covered in this podcast, please consult a qualified attorney. Under New York's Code of Professional Responsibility, portions of this communication contain attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome. Results depend upon a variety of factors unique to each representation. Please direct all inquiries regarding the conduct of Latham & Watkins attorneys under the New York's disciplinary rules to Latham & Watkins LLP, 1271 Avenue of the Americas, New York, New York, 10020. Phone number 1-212-906-1200.